Are you a good guy trying to be bad, or are you a bad guy trying to be good?
No.
It's a good question.
Sometimes you root against a guy and he wins you over because he's so good. You're like, I wanted that motherfucker to lose, but he's the fucking greatest.
Yeah.
Jon Jones is a bad guy who's trying to be a good guy.
I think I am a bad guy that's trying to be good.
Jon Bones Jones, the world heavyweight champion, and arguably the greatest MMA fighter of all time.
So what is that like being Jon? Like, what is that like thinking there isn't another man on the planet that could do anything to you in hand-to-hand combat?
Pretty awesome.
Born on July 19, 1987 in Rochester, New York, Jon Jones emerged into a world that would shape his destiny in ways he could scarcely imagine. Raised in a family of athletes, the young Jones was surrounded by a fervent passion for combat sports. His father, Arthur Jones Jr., was a pastor and a former professional boxer, while his older brother, Arthur III, was an accomplished NFL player. With his brothers as role models, Jon was introduced to wrestling at a young age. The sport quickly became a refuge for Jon, offering him an outlet for his burgeoning energy and a canvas upon which to paint his ambitions. As he stepped onto the wrestling mat for the first time, it was evident that Jon Jones possessed a rare blend of natural talent and an unyielding work ethic. Little did the world know that this unassuming young athlete was on the cusp of etching his name amongst the greatest in combat sports history.
I believe in the law of attraction, and I believe that that you can speak things into existence. And I believe that when you know where you're going and you know what you want, the universe has a way of stepping aside for you.
Jon Jones's transition to MMA was nothing short of extraordinary. In 2008, Jon made his professional MMA debut, stepping in the cage with an air of confidence in his freakish athletic abilities. His raw athleticism, coupled with his diverse skill set, caused the MMA world to quickly take notice of this lanky yet incredibly gifted fighter who seemed to move with a grace and agility rarely seen in the sport.
How long have you been fighting?
I've been training for MMA for about 10 months now, 10, 11 months.
So you're 10 months into it, and you're got a fight in the UFC?
Yeah, man, I mean, thought Andre Guzman would be a good fight for me, and we took the fight, and now I'm here.
Jones made his UFC debut against Andre Guzman in 2008, securing a victory that marked the beginning of a legacy in the making. Jones's ascent through the ranks was meteoric. His unorthodox striking, coupled with his wrestling prowess, made him a formidable force in the light heavyweight division. He garnered attention not only for his victories, but for the manner in which he displayed a level of creativity and unpredictability that set him apart. He was outclassing everyone and making it look far too easy. Jones's meteoric rise continued, and in 2011 he captured the UFC light heavyweight title by defeating Shogun. This victory made him the youngest champion in UFC history, a record that still stands today.
That's a pretty big day for a guy. Then he comes in here and dominates Shogun. Jon Jones got through a tough test tonight, passed with flying colors. The real challenge starts now. He seems to be a smart guy, has a good family around him and people that, care about him. So hopefully he can get through the nastiness that's going to come at him over the next several months.
Jones's championship reign was marked by a series of successful title defenses, each victory further solidifying his status as a once-in-a-generation talent. His victories over established veterans showcased not only his skill, but also his ability to adapt to different challenges. Jon Jones embarked on a light heavyweight title defense spree that became legendary.
The challenger, Quentin Rampage Jackson, will take on the champion, Jon Jones, for the light heavyweight championship of the world.
I feel like I know what I'm getting into with Quentin. I've been watching his 40-something fights every day. I mean, his DVD is in my laptop constantly, and while he's playing video games, I'm watching him. So
when all is said and done, the fight is over, tell me what's going to happen.
I'm going to blow him out the water. I'm going to destroy Jon Jones.
Rampage, up until this point, had been considered one of the baddest men in the sport. It was a moment that caused fans to realize the MMA superstars they knew and loved were about to slowly get replaced by the young and impressive next generation of up-and-comers like Jones.
That's the only fight in my career where I've been like almost close to 100%. Jon Jones is a great fighter, but I'm gonna be 100. But he's the dirtiest fighter ever.
The momentum continued as Jones faced and defeated the who's who of the light heavyweight division, including Lyoto Machida, Rashad Evans, and Vitor Belfort. Each victory showcased not only his physical prowess, but also his evolving mental game as well. For years, Jones seemed invincible inside the octagon, earning him a reputation as one of the most formidable fighters in the sport's history. Whoever the UFC threw at him, he seemed to walk right through. However, Jones's journey was not without its share of hardships.
I was not drag racing.
Actually, I do know that you're drag racing.
Both know. I freaking revved my engine at the red light, and I never took off racing at all. Getting elected into the Hall of Fame, and now this is what I got. I hate you.
Outside the cage, he faced a series of personal challenges, including struggles with substance abuse and a string of legal troubles.
Former UFC champion Jon Bones Jones has taken a plea deal in his latest criminal case. Jones pled no contest to criminal damage to property.
Overcoming every obstacle, Jon Jones reclaimed his place at the top of the UFC. His triumphant return to the octagon was a testament to his unwavering commitment to greatness.
Jon is what I would describe is there's human beings that have different temperament and different minds and different mentality and a ruthless competitive drive that's almost terrifying to the ordinary person. That's Jon Jones. That guy, if we were living 1,000 years ago, he would be on a horse with the biggest battle axe, waiting in the back, hacking heads off, and everybody would be running.
We cannot ignore one of the most riveting chapters, his intense rivalry with Lafayette, Louisiana's very own Daniel Cormier. The seeds of this bitter feud were planted in 2014 when Jones and Cormier, set to face each other at UFC 178, engaged in a heated exchange during a press event. What ensued was a brawl that spilled out into the public eye, leaving fans foaming at the mouth for more. The tension between the two fighters was palpable, and when they finally met in the octagon in January 2015, the atmosphere was electric. Herb Dean laid out the rules, and to the crowd's surprise, the fighters touched gloves. The first round was fairly even, with both fighters feeling one another out. Jon hit DC with a lot of quick leg kicks, while DC hit Jon with a number of right hands. Jon ultimately won the round, this being Cormier's first ever loss of a round in the octagon, as well as being the first time Cormier had ever been taken down in the octagon. By the end of round 2, it became evident that this fight would likely go the distance. But what was even more evident was Jon's 12-inch reach advantage over DC. He could just hit DC with relative ease while still dodging DC's attacks. The fight did end up going the distance, with Jones ultimately securing a unanimous decision victory. However, controversy ensued as Jones tested positive for a certain banned substance shortly after the bout.
What's this guy gonna do to mess this up this time? I beat you after a weekend of cocaine. Jeez.
This added another layer of complexity to their rivalry, raising questions about Jones's focus and commitment to the sport, and the very real question of, is this the end of Jon Bones Jones?
Jon Jones tested positive for cocaine out of competition. In competition, he's tested negative.
You have a responsibility of greatness. There's also a responsibility that comes with potential.
In July 2016 at UFC 200, it was only fitting that arch rivals Bones and DC were slated to face off for their greatly awaited rematch. Fate, however, had other plans. Jones tested positive again for banned substances, leading to the cancellation of their rematch.
Anything I can do, like I'll sign a release and we can just fight. Can't do it.
The fight, initially set to be a headliner, was billed as a showdown for the ages.
Jon Jones, get your together, I'm waiting for you!
The highly anticipated rematch was suddenly thrust into uncertainty, leaving fans disappointed and yearning for closure to this bitter feud. At this point, it really did seem like we'd seen the last of Johnny Bones. Jones once again screwed up, only this time he put someone else in harm's way due to his apparent inability to make good decisions.
Police say Jones ran a red light at Wantabo in Southern Sunday, crashed into a car carrying a pregnant woman, then ran from the scene.
Fans were at a crossroads at this point. Do they continue to support this man?
I was very disappointed with you with that car accident thing.
Yeah.
When you ran away from that car accident.
Yeah.
That to me was like, God damn, John's in a bad place.
Yeah, it was. I was at a bad place. It was a messed up situation, man. I was in a point in my life then when I was winning all these fights. I was the it boy in the UFC. You know, greatest of all time, finishing legends after legend after legend.
Jon went on to describe his hit-and-run encounter and what he was thinking when he committed the crime.
I step out of the car, and I just took off running.
Did you look at the other person in the other car?
No, I had no clue that it was a woman. I had no clue that it was a pregnant woman.
When you found out it was a pregnant woman, what was going through your mind?
I thought, man, I'm done. I'm done.
Jon Jones faced a crossroads in his career. His personal life had become intertwined with his professional endeavors, casting a shadow over his status as one of the sport's most promising talents. Determined to rewrite the narrative, Jones immersed himself in a process of self-discovery and growth. The redemption arc saw him confronting personal demons, making amends for past mistakes, and ultimately, earning a shot at redemption within the confines of the Octagon, against none other than his arch-rival.
The way that the things that this guy's blessed with, and to just take the chance of pissing it all away. I don't like entitlement. He doesn't deserve all this.
After it's all said and done, Jones had defied the odds and found his way back into a main event title fight with DC, fulfilling his suspension, paying the fines, and putting in the work to get his personal life somewhat back in order so that he could return to the sport he loves and take care of unfinished business. That business being shutting up Daniel Cormier for good and finding out once and for all who the GOAT is.
It was such a long road to get back here, and I went through so much stuff to be back here, and it's, me being here is just a testament that, God is good, and if you put your mind to things, there's nothing we can't achieve. So I'm here. I made it to the event.
Jones seemingly had no lack of confidence leading into the event. He may have lost a huge chunk of his life to legal troubles, suspensions, fines, and sleepless nights. But what seemingly remained untouched was his signature ambition and drive leading up to a fight. Jones appeared headstrong heading into his second and final bout with DC.
I just believe that it's already done. What's for me is for me, and I believe that this is meant to be for me. I've done all the work, and I feel like it's my time.
15 long months had passed. Jones and DC were all set to rematch on July 29, 2017 at UFC 214 at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. The Honda Center sold out a record-breaking attendance of nearly 17,000 rabid MMA fans who were ready to witness the fight of the year. The fighters made their way to the Octagon to be locked in together one final time. For DC, this fight is everything. For Jones, this fight means proving to himself he is unbreakable. One thing is for certain. There is more on the line than just the light heavyweight championship belt. These two men are fighting for much more than that. Jon makes his way to the Octagon first. He appears very loose. The weight of the moment doesn't seem to be affecting Jones in any way. He looks poised and ready to bang. After Jones' walkout, up next is DC. DC is seen psyching himself up backstage before he bursts into a sprint to the Octagon, followed by his team. The main event of the evening is finally upon us. The fighters pace with anticipation in their corners. Bruce Buffer kicks it all off with his iconic signature line. The moment has finally arrived. Jon Bones Jones and Daniel D.C. Cormier stand across from one another in the Octagon. No more talking, no more lead-up, just time to perform. The stakes were higher than ever, with the UFC light heavyweight title hanging in the balance. Jones sought to reclaim his place at the top, while Cormier aimed to solidify his standing as the rightful champion. The fight itself was a roller coaster of emotions, with both fighters showcasing their skill, determination, and a burning desire to emerge victorious. The crowd sat on the edge of their seat, hoping and waiting to see a magnificent finish from either fighter. And that's just what they got.
DC was stunned by that head kick. Jones trying to press the issue here.
Cormier's in big trouble.
Comes Johnny Bones with the ground and pound. Cormier.
That could be it. That's it. He's out. He's out.
Jon Jones has done it. Jon Jones is back. And he is the new UFC light heavyweight champion. How about it?
Wow.
Jon had won by a spectacular finish, knocking out Daniel Cormier to hand him the worst defeat of his professional MMA career. All the animosity and intensity was now done. Jones was the new UFC light heavyweight champion of the world. For now. It's revealed by USADA not long after the dust settles that Jon had failed his weigh-in drug test at UFC 214 before fighting Cormier. Jones would be stripped of his newly won title, and it would return to its rightful owner.
Should UFC just cut ties with Jon Jones?
Listen, Jon Jones just cut ties with the UFC. This is his second steroid bust. He had the hit and run incident. That's 3 strikes and you're out as far as I can tell.
Dana White is asked about how this affects Jon Jones' legacy. His response was pretty bleak.
About his legacy, it's probably the end of his career. And you look at what could have been, what he could have done, it's sad.
Jon Jones was found to test positive for a drug called turinabol. When researching the effects of this drug on steroid.com, the following is what you'll find. Oral turinabol will be most valuable to the athlete, and by athlete we actually mean athlete. We're not talking about the bodybuilder or gym rat that lives like one, but rather someone who competes in a competitive sport of physical skill. The use of oral turinabol will significantly promote muscular endurance. They won't tire out as fast, and their overall rate of recovery should be greatly improved. Jones claimed that he was unknowingly dosed with a trace amount of the drug in a tainted male enhancement pill. Jones said he was led to believe the tainted substance, which he purchased off of a buddy of his, was the male enhancement pill Cialis.
In a combat sport, when you're juicing, that's really unethical. It's really dangerous. And you cheated history and the competition. You can actually hurt somebody badly. In fact, that's the name of the game in MMA. So my question to Jon Bones Jones is, not only are you cheating, and that's bad and all that stuff, but how are you getting caught?
ESPN was unforgiving. All of sports media tended to be. We were all wondering when this was going to stop. Jones had surely blown his last opportunity, right?
Thinks he barely has to cover up what he's done.
But Jon Jones wasn't done. He wouldn't allow his last fight in the history books to be erased from history over a bogus pop, as he maintained he would never disrespect the sport of MMA by cheating. Jones would stay suspended for an additional 15 months. Cormier was given his title back. Jones was back to facing what he knew best: adversity. Jon was poised to make a comeback to claim his seat on the throne of MMA greatness. He wasted little to no time getting back in the gym and putting in the necessary work. He has his eyes on a new opponent this time: Alexander Gustafsson. UFC 232 in Inglewood, California.
Already, protect yourself at all times. Obey my commands at all times. Just goes now if you want. Come on out and handle your business. Let's go.
The highly anticipated rematch between Jon versus Alexander is one for the books. Their first fight was the first time Jones had ever looked beatable. The fans knew that Alex was the only hope of dethroning Jones as the light heavyweight champion. Jon had other plans for the night. Jon, using his signature speed and ridiculous reach, pieced up Alexander one by one, making it look effortless, before eventually tiring him out and getting him to the ground.
He's going to take Alex's back. Oh, big shot. Big shot by Jon Jones. Gustafsson's in trouble. That's it.
Has regained the throne. Wow. Jon Jones stops Alexander Gustafsson in round 3, and he is once again the undisputed UFC light heavyweight champion.
Alexander gave Jon his all, but it wasn't quite enough. Jon displayed the level of dominance the fans had come to know him for. Jon Jones was back.
For the cheater, no one sympathizes for me because I'm a multimillionaire, famous athlete. No one wants to sympathize for people like me.
As you can imagine, Jon dealt with very little empathy from fans on his road to redemption this go-around. He still maintained that the banned substance found in his system was so minuscule that it truly wouldn't have helped his performance in any way.
What USADA said was a teaspoon. It was like taking a pinch of salt and throwing it into an Olympic-sized swimming pool, and to be fired from work for a year, to lose all your endorsements. No one feels sorry for you. People just say, oh, well, he did coke when he was younger, so he must be guilty. I just learned to say, it. And just keep getting mine, man. That's all I can do. Just keep getting mine.
Jon continued on a path of destruction. After defeating the Swedish badass Gustafsson at UFC 232, only a short 3 months later at UFC 235, he would meet Anthony Smith and put his light heavyweight championship on the line once again. Jon and Anthony finally met at UFC 235 in March of 2019 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Anthony gave it his all, but ultimately he was no test for Bones. He put up 5 rounds of fight like a champion and earned the respect of fans and his peers alike for stepping up to the GOAT. Jon continued on his path of greatness, and only a mere 4 months after his fight with Smith, he was set to fight Thiago Santos at UFC 239. He had a slow start, but picked up the pace by round 3. The fight was absolutely full of leg kicks and signature Jon Jones oblique kicks. From all of the insane leg kicks thrown throughout the fight, Thiago wrecked his knee at some point toward the later half of the fight. And the commentary crew even asked, I wonder if his corner knows his knee is messed up? Not long after, Santos was stumbling around in the ring and obviously in excruciating pain. However, the fight went the distance, and in actuality, the fight was a lot closer than anyone may have expected it would be. Jon Jones managed to squeak out the split decision over Santos, and he gave his praise to Thiago after the fight, pointing out that Santos was his toughest opponent as of yet.
Thiago Santos is a Yeah. He kicked the shit out of Jon's legs, put him in real danger, and, I think Jon would have made a way easier fight if he decided to take him to the ground, but he never did. Definitely kicked the shit out of his legs. Jon had to be carried out.
In a wheelchair.
Jon was still the light heavyweight champion, but Santos performed extremely well against Jones. Jon looked as if he could have very well lost that fight. This was Jon Jones's first ever fight to be decided by a split decision, and he very narrowly escaped with the W, the belt, and his undefeated record.
Yeah, he was extremely powerful. His kicks were powerful, his punches were powerful.
You get to the decision, you line up, they start reading a split result, they read a score for him. What's going through your mind at that point?
I was confident that I won the fight. My coaches wouldn't lie to me. To have a fight like that is extremely humbling. Honestly, I would have to say he's the most powerful guy I've ever fought.
Roughly a year and a half passes after Jones' slim margin of victory over Santos. Jon has stayed out of trouble and appeared to finally be beyond the legal issues he was previously known for. This Jon looked poised and ready to go, which he would need to be as a new opponent has been picked for him, a relatively unknown Dominic Reyes. Jon would be smart not to underestimate him.
I'm going to have a great 2020, and it's going to start off by destroying Dominic. Yeah, man, I don't know what I want to do to him, man. I don't know if I want to knock him out, choke him out, but, dude, I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. I promise you guys.
The time has come. UFC 247 took place on February 8, 2020 at the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. There wasn't an empty seat in the arena, and an insane $3.5 million were earned from the gate alone. The relatively unknown Dominic Reyes wouldn't be unknown after tonight. Reyes put intense pressure on Jon for 5 rounds straight. Jon managed to do just enough to earn the decision victory, but Reyes definitely earned his respect. Some fans even to this day maintain that Dominic should have rightfully won the bout. Jon had to come to terms with the fact that his air of invincibility was long gone. Was Father Time catching up to Jones?
Dominic, you have totally earned my respect, man.
You just passed George St. Pierre for the most wins in title fight history. How does that feel?
But, I think I had a moment just a second ago. I shed some tears. You know, when people ask me, what are you fighting for when you've done so much already? Tonight. I fight for nights like tonight.
I won that fight, you know. I know I was there. He was there, you know. Everybody, you know, all the staff, you know, from the top all the way down told me I won that fight, you know. And I know I won that fight. I was in that fight. The judges didn't see it that way. You know, and this is for me, this is a huge validation, you know. It's my very first time going 5 rounds in my entire career against Jon Jones, who is arguably the greatest of all time. And I put it on him, you know, I took it to him. Man.
The general consensus among some fight fans is that Dominic took the first 3 rounds, making him the rightful victor in what should have been a 3-2 decision victory for Reyes. However, the judges stood by their decision, and the fight will likely go down in history as Jones's most contested and controversial victory. That one particular fight where it can be argued that he didn't do enough for the W.
I wasn't always confident that I was winning the fight. I was confident that I wasn't going to be giving up or slowing down. Greg Jackson said to me, Jon, you may need to win this 5th round to win. And that heart of a champion said, no problem, coach. I got that. I can do that for you. I can leave it all out there. Got 5 minutes left. And I think I displayed the difference between a champion and an extraordinary contender.
After all, Jon was getting up there in age. He was already 32 years of age, which for most fighters is around the time they should leave the gloves in the middle of the octagon and call it a career. Some fighters fight way beyond that age, against better judgment, whether it be for financial reasons or simply ego. Was Jones just lucky to get the judge's decision over Reyes, or did he still truly possess the heart of a champion? As the months turned into years, doubts started to surface. Critics argued that the heavyweight division was a different beast, and the time away from the cage would surely take its toll on Jon. Many believed that Jones, despite his previous dominance, was now, simply put, past his prime. Fans were convinced that Jones couldn't possibly contend with the rising stars in the heavyweight division of 2023. Then, out of the blue, came the announcement that sent shockwaves through the MMA world.
Not the fight we were expecting, but I think when people saw it, people did get pretty excited. What's your thoughts on Jones versus Gon?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you have, if you look at the fight with Francis and Cyril, it was a damn close fight. So there's no doubt that those 2 guys are the best heavyweights in the world. And for Jon to come out and face either one of them is exciting. It's fun.
Jon Jones was finally returning to the UFC after 3 long years off. The excitement was palpable, but so were the concerns. Could he really shake off the rust and compete at a weight class known for its sheer power and one-punch knockout brutality?
Both incredibly talented guys. Cyril Gane is a heavyweight that moves like a middleweight. He's got a really well-rounded game, and Jon Jones is the best to ever do it, in my opinion. So you couldn't ask for a better fight.
Do you think if he comes back after 3 years away and wins a title in another division, there's no denying to anyone that he's probably the greatest?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in ring rust. I mean, Ali took 3 years off and didn't look the same when he came back. We'll see what happens with Jon. Jon has put the weight on naturally, though. He didn't do it overnight. It's taken a long time, and he's ready to roll. He's excited to fight, so see what happens.
In Jon's 3-year absence from the Ultimate Fighting Championship, there had been one man who rose to fame rather quickly. A once-in-a-generation heavyweight talent by the name of Francis Ngannou. In his meteoric rise to becoming a legendary heavyweight, Francis had shared the Octagon with the likes of Overeem, Stipe, Velasquez, and Jon's next opponent, Ciryl Gane. Francis defeated every last one of them and proved he was the baddest man in the heavyweight division, no doubt about it. However, Francis seemed to know his worth. From the sand mines in Cameroon, Africa, to the bright lights of the UFC main event stage, Francis had worked his way up from rags to riches with pure talent, ambition, and drive. For Francis, contract negotiations with the UFC lasted for a couple years before both parties decided to go their separate ways. Francis had become the man to beat, and he wanted to be paid accordingly. However, Dana White and the UFC disagreed.
So, we can't continue to hold up the division and not come to an agreement with this guy. We did everything we could to try to make this fight happen, and he's got it in his head that there's bigger opportunities outside the UFC with lesser opponents.
The hype for Jon's move to heavyweight was insane. And Gane, the current heavyweight champion, was a big man, a true heavyweight, and a legitimate threat to Jon's legacy. The build-up to the fight was one of the most exciting what-ifs fight fans have experienced for years. The two heavyweights were set to clash at UFC 285 at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. The reigning interim heavyweight champ made his way to the Octagon. The fans only cared about one thing, and that was seeing how Jon fared with the big boys, and that's exactly what they were about to discover. Jon made his way to the Octagon looking as confident as he's ever looked. He claimed leading up to this fight that he was going to, quote, make it look easy. Was he underestimating Gane, or was Jon truly just as comfortable at heavyweight? It's time to find out once and for all if Jones can compete with the biggest and baddest.
UFC title fight time! Jon's controlling the center of the Octagon.
Both men meet at the center of the Octagon ready to go. Nothing too exciting happens yet. Both men are feeling each other out. Jon tries testing his distance with Gane and misses a leg kick. This is when you can see Jon get comfortable enough to start executing on his game plan. Ciryl throws a quick punch, but Jon's too fast. He dodges it and goes for the takedown, and he gets it.
Jones has said all week he's still moving like a light heavyweight.
Jon's got Ciryl on the mat right where he wants him. He's executing his game plan perfectly.
And he's got him down immediately. That is absolutely huge.
Now you see Jones trying to get a hook in.
He's putting down.
He got the greatest of all time, and now the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
Jon Jones had done the unthinkable. After being on a 3-year hiatus, he not only returned to the Octagon, but put on 40 pounds and decisively submitted the biggest, baddest man the UFC could find to fight him. There is no argument anymore. There's no debate. Jon Jones has proven time and time again that he can and will absolutely demolish any perceived adversity that is thrown his way.
There has never been a fight that means more to me than beating Stipe Miocic. I don't think I've ever fought a GOAT, and people consider him the greatest heavyweight of all time. None of my past champions that I've beat were considered GOATs, so this GOAT versus GOAT, I'm going to look a lot better in my next fight. I'm going to be lean and mean. I'm going to be fast. I'm going to be well-rehearsed, and I'm going to finish Stipe Miocic. I don't come to win. I come to dominate Stipe Miocic, and that's exactly what I am going to do.
Jon Jones has proven beyond a reasonable doubt to be the greatest MMA fighter of all time. He's a once-in-a-lifetime fight talent that we're all lucky enough to witness. His next fight will be against Stipe and will be the final bout of his long career and a much-earned retirement. Win or lose against Stipe, Jones has proved himself to be unbreakable. Be sure to like and subscribe to Superior Men's Club and stay tuned for the next episode of the MMA Legends series. We'll see you for the next one.